Good evening, Madam Chairman. We have one complaint this evening that we're going to discuss, and with your permission, I'd like to have Sergeant Hartsglass walk through a PowerPoint presentation which will help, I think, bring clarity to the rather expansive report that the committee has already received. Sergeant Hartsglass?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sergeant Hartsglass of the Office of Professional Standards. I conducted the investigation that you know of as CR 12-21. It involves a complaint enlisted by Mrs. Ava Greenwell and her son, Dewani Greenwell. I have the PowerPoint presentation, which I'll walk you guys through. On August 30th, 2012, there was a call received from 1618 Seward. The victim called and stated that she had just encountered a burglar in her home. The victim stated that the burglar appeared to be a teen, male black, wearing khaki cargo shorts and a dark t-shirt. This is an excerpt of that 911 call.
Evanston 911, where's your emergency?
1618 Seward Street.
Sure, what's going on?
Someone just came into my house. I was downstairs and I heard something that came up. Someone was in my bedroom. They were in the house.
Do you have a description of them at all?
He seemed like a young boy. He was African American. He had like a phone charger and like an iPad charger in his hand.
That are yours?
Yes, and
Did he take them with him?
No, he dropped them. I don't know if he had anything else in his pockets.
Do you have a description of like what he was wearing?
I think he was wearing some kind of like cargo khaki kind of shorts and a dark brown t-shirt or a dark shirt.
Okay, and is 1618 Seward a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me get the officers headed into the area. This just happened, right?
Yeah, and he's trying to...
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Let me get an officer on the way.
As you just heard, the dispatch operator on the 911 side took the call from the caller. The caller described the subject that she saw in her house, indicated that he was wearing khaki shorts, dark t-shirt, also indicated that he had a phone charger, but that he had dropped it. Now the 911 dispatcher will try to send that call out to officers who are in the area looking for that subject.
Sure, 272 cars in the area. Started for 1618 Seward, 1618 on Seward. Had a forced entry occur to a house. The offender's a black male, probably in his teens, wearing a dark shirt and khaki cargo shorts. 1618 Seward for 272 cars in the area.
22 going.
22, 21.
Now we have Officer Buell and his partner, who is the named accused officer in this investigation. They're already in the area because they're working burglary suppression. He and his partner, who are in the area, they see a subject who it fits the description, who is male black, who is wearing cargo khaki shorts, who is on a bicycle, and this is how the bicycle comes into the equation.
We saw guys from a distance kind of match that description on a bike. We lost them, like Dewey and Oakland, north of there. He didn't make it out to Oakland.
Anyone 10-4, put that match that description at Dewey and Oakland, north of there.
Now, after Officer Buell's partner puts out that flash, now the officers have in their mind that they're looking for a subject. Not only is he male black, not only is he wearing cargo khaki shorts, but that he's also on a bicycle. Other officers in the area, they began to look for a subject matching that particular description. We have an officer already in the area, and at approximately 11:17 a.m., he stops a subject that's matching the description, that is wearing khaki cargo shorts, and that is on a bicycle. This is a video from an officer's vehicle showing that particular stop, which occurred at Florence and Oakton. Again, as I said, at approximately 11:17 a.m. The youth he stopped was cooperative in that when he told the youth to stop on the bicycle, the youth did stop. When he asked the youth to come over to his squad car, the youth came over to his squad car. He and the youth then had a conversation as to where the youth had been, where he was going, what he had been doing. The youth told him that he was an ETHS student. He told him that he was riding a bicycle in order to try to lose weight for the wrestling class that he wanted to enter. So they had a conversation. This youth was not handcuffed. A show-up presentation was done with this youth as well at Florence and Oakton. This is witness officer number 4 who is at Oakton and Florence with the youth. And as I say, he's gonna ask officers to come over, bring the victim over for a show-up, which is a visual observation done by either a witness or a victim of a crime to determine if the officers have actually apprehended the person that they described. Now, in the meantime, at approximately 11:18, we have another officer in the area driving southbound on Wesley. And this is the video excerpt in the top screen. This officer is the officer that Dewani spoke to me about in his interview. He said that as he was traveling home on Wesley, he couldn't really remember the exact name of the street, but it was Wesley. And this is Dewani wearing a gray T-shirt. He's wearing a baseball cap. He's wearing navy cargo shorts. He's traveling southbound. This is as he approaches Seward Street. And the officer sees him. At this time, Dewani does not make any evasive moves. He's just simply riding his bicycle home, as he said he was. He had just finished looking for some items he had lost the day before. And this officer, she wasn't certain whether or not she had enough information to stop Dewani. And as he enters the area of Oakton and Wesley, you can see the officer's vehicle right here in the top right-hand side of the screen at the bottom. And we have another officer approaching, going westbound on Oakton. Then we have Dewani at the crosswalk. He realized the officer has to stop, so now he has an opportunity to cross over into the Shute Park School. The officer who originally had seen him, she is still sitting there. Again, she doesn't think she has enough information. She sees him. She sees that he's matching the description as given by our victim. And as he entered the crosswalk and went over to the Shute School park area, this is the flash that she gives out to officers.
274.
274.
If we could just verify if somebody's with the victim, the description, because I got somebody with cargo shorts, like a dark navy blue or black.
Stop on it, please.
All right, he's riding south through the park. He's on a blue bike. I'll try and catch him soon.
What part?
Sorry, the school. Shoot school.
Okay, south on Florence, there's a guy on a bicycle. South on Florence through the park.
He's wearing a light gray tank top, blue cap. I can't catch him, so I'm going to have to drive around.
What we just heard is witness officer 6 indicating that, yeah, I have a kid. He's going through the park of Shute School. He's matching the description. She's asking for affirmation. She's also asking someone to talk to the victim to verify the description as given by the victim to make sure that she's going to stop the correct person based on the description given by the victim. As she continues, she now exits her vehicle because she can't drive up on the curb and the sidewalk of the school area. When she's exiting her vehicle, we have officers asking her, well, which way are you going? What park are you in? Now she gives them more information. Now you can also hear her being slightly winded, having just tried to jog after Dewani Greenwell. She didn't try to tell Dewani Greenwell to stop. I'm sure if she had said, "Stop, Dewani," he would have stopped. But she never asked him to stop. All she did was get out of her vehicle and try to jog after him. That's why she's winded. However, the officers in the area, they don't realize why she's winded. They believe that she was chasing someone and that person wouldn't stop for her. Also, another element of this is that when the bicycle came into the equation, Officer Buell's partner brought that bicycle into equation. This young lady continued with that mindset. However, the young man that was stopped at Florence and Oakton, he was actually the person that Officer Buell's partner had seen at a far distance. However, Officer Buell's partner never communicated that to his coworkers. He never told anyone that, hey, the person I was looking for a couple of blocks away, he's that person that was stopped at Florence and Oakton by witness officer number 4. That communication is never made. Therefore, witness officer number 6, she continues with her effort of trying to make contact with Dewani Greenwell. With the assistance of Officer Buell and his partner, they are now going to the area to try to head off Dewani Greenwell, and they've gone to the area of Kirk Street. However, before getting to Kirk Street, they have already seen witness officer number 6 jogging back to her vehicle along with another officer, giving them the impression and the perception that this young man, whoever she had seen, is truly trying to evade her. However, that isn't the case. Dewani, he was riding his bike home. He even told me in his interview when he got to Florence, when he got to Oakton and Wesley, he could look west and he could see the officers having stopped what he believed 2 young men at Florence and Oakton. And he believed that something was going on in the area. I'm sure he didn't know what, but I'm sure Dewani wanted to get home, as any of us would have wanted to do when we see a lot of police presence in the area.
He saw him pretty young.
Going to southbound on Florence.
This is Officer Buell. As he's driving eastbound on Kirk Street, Dewani is riding his bicycle westbound on Kirk Street, on the north side of the street where his home is located. Dewani is trying to get to his home. When Dewani gets to his home, he does get off his bicycle. By the time Officer Buell meets him in that area, Officer Buell believes he's heading through the yards, because that's what he said. He's heading through the yards. Indeed, we know now Dewani Greenwell was not heading through the yards. Dewani Greenwell was trying to get home. He was trying to go into his backyard. And as he reached to touch his wooden gate that has the latch on the inside of the yard, that's when Officer Buell became with the perception that he's trying to go over the gate and go through the yards. Now, another aspect that came up during this investigation is, well, why would Officer Buell want to stop him when he says he's looking for someone that's 6 feet tall, high school age? This transmission was not by Officer Buell, it was by a detective, because remember, witness officer number 6, she asked for anyone to talk to the victim and verify the description of the suspect. Well, we have detectives who have now gone to the victim's home at 1618 Seward, and they are doing that. They're trying to talk with the victim and get a better description so that officers can be directed in the right path. However, when officers go and talk to victims or witnesses, they turn their radio down. Well, when this detective turned his radio back up, this is what you heard. A lot of scrambling at the beginning because he's cutting out his identity, he's cutting out who he is, he's cutting out anyone that's trying to transmit unknowing.
Black t-shirt, dark cargo shorts, no hat, 2 tall, probably 6 feet, high school age.
So anyone that heard that at that particular time at 11:21, directly following Officer Buell's transmission, believes that it was Officer Buell making that transmission, but it wasn't. Even dispatch operator couldn't discern the difference.
Which one you guys on right now?
We're at 1625 Kirk Street. Can we have the caller come over here too?
Two five four.
Go to that one first. Where are they located?
1625 Texas.
Roger.
So then we have a detective indicating, yes, sure, we'll bring the victim over to 1625 Kirk instead of going to Oakton and Florence first. However, that's not what happened. He realized he was closer to Florence and Oakton, and the victim was taken to a show-up at Florence and Oakton first. So we have Officer Buell at 1121 requesting show-up. Officer Buell, when he first got there, as I said, he observed DeWani Greenwell, in his words, abruptly throwing the bike down and heading toward a fence area. He asked him to stop. DeWani Greenwell immediately stopped, and he was handcuffed. At this time, DeWani's mother has exited their home to see what's going on because of the loud commotion. According to officers on scene, DeWani was cooperative. He was mild-mannered. He spoke, but he spoke softly. He cooperated with whatever the officers asked him to do. However, again, the officers, after seeing, especially Officer Buell and his partner, after seeing witness officer number 6 speedily return back to her vehicle, also hearing her over the radio sounding winded as if she had been in a foot chase, they were under the impression that this young man had been trying to evade her and that he was trying to run away. The officers believed that since he had already fled from her, they believed that he might try to flee from them. We know now that that's not part of DeWani Greenwell's nature. We know now that DeWani Greenwell, especially with his mother present, would have done anything that the officers asked him to do. However, when the officers were on scene at 1625 Kirk on August 30th at 11:21 a.m., they didn't know Mrs. Greenwell and they did not know DeWani. The officers didn't know what type of home it was. They didn't know who they were talking to. They remained on scene. We've had questions, why so many officers? Well, there were so many officers because we have the 2 female officers who had already tried to catch up with DeWani. We have an African-American officer that's off at the scene. We have Officer Buell and his partner, and we have a sergeant that's on scene. That's 7 officers. The female officers are speaking with Mrs. Greenwell. The African-American officer is speaking with Mrs. Greenwell. They're trying to explain to Mrs. Greenwell why DeWani has been stopped, why he has been handcuffed, and what's the next process to go through, that being the show-up. At the show-up, when the detectives, they first took the victim to Florence and Oakton.
254.
254.
Left the residence, began mileage 60956, and that was a negative at Florence and Oakton, and our way to Kirk.
4724.
This is the in-car camera video of the scene. We have Officer Buell's vehicle that he was driving that day. It is a gray unmarked squad car. It is parked in Mr. and Mrs. Greenwell's driveway. We have our sergeant's vehicle right here, and we are viewing this from one of the female officers' in-car camera. This is following the show up. DeWani will soon be walking back toward his home because he's now since been released from handcuffs because the victim did not identify him as the burglary suspect. We have Officer Buell and his partner returning to his vehicle. We have Mrs. Greenwell right here. Mrs. Greenwell is now talking with Officer Buell and his partner, and I'm certain at that particular point, this is where Mrs. Greenwell's demanding an apology from Officer Buell and his partner. Officer Buell told Mrs. Greenwell that he wouldn't have a problem with apologizing to DeWani, but DeWani had retreated back into the home. Mrs. Greenwell told him, no problem, I will go get him because he deserves an apology. At that time, she went and she brought DeWani Greenwell back outside where the officers spoke with him, and at that particular time, they even told the sergeant on the car-to-car ban that they were going to stick around and offer the victim, offer Mrs. Greenwell an apology. When they offered the apology, though, Mrs. Greenwell nor DeWani thought it was heartfelt. They didn't believe it was sincere. Officer Buell said as he started to apologize and say, hey, I'm sorry, I only stopped you because you matched the description. That's all it was. It wasn't anything personal. Officer Buell stated in his interview that Mrs. Greenwell and Dewani immediately stated, no, you only stopped me because I'm black. This is racial profiling. Nothing less than that. Officer Buell stated at that particular moment he didn't believe that anything that he would say would make a difference, nor would it matter. He then, therefore, ended contact with Mrs. Greenwell and Dewani, and he left the area. This is also an excerpt of the show-up result.
254.
To be negative on Kirk. Our suspect last seen fleeing eastbound in the north alley of Seward at this on foot.
It's negative at both shows. Negative at both shows.
So again, from 11:13 to 11:26, this is where we are. The show-up was a negative at 1625 Kirk. The officers offered an apology. Mrs. Greenwell stated immediately after Dewani was released, then all the officers retreated. All the officers retreated because, again, we've had 13 minutes of trying to search for a burglary suspect. We tried to ascertain or take into custody a burglary suspect within a half an hour of occurrence so that we can be afforded the show-up process. However, this didn't happen, so officers immediately retreated to their vehicles because if Dewani wasn't the offender and if the young man at Florence and Oakton was the offender, that meant that the offender was still out there somewhere. So they retreated to their vehicles. Again, Officer Buell tried to convey an apology to Mrs. Greenwell and Dewani Greenwell, and after it was not affected, he left the area. Thank you.